This week at Bungie, we introduce seasonal challenges. So welcome to the second to last Twab of Season of the Hunt, and many of you have been navigating the secrets of the Harbinger mission, uncovering randomly rolled Hawk Moons and earning the Radiant Scepter exotic ship. Content-wise, we're coming to a close for the season, and we're incredibly excited for what's to come in just a few short weeks. We've been covering some upcoming quality of life changes to Destiny 2, like the return of Umbral engrams, but it's almost time to take a peek at some fresh content. Season of the Redacted trailer goes live on February the 2nd, 2021. But before we get there, we've got a new feature to cover, seasonal challenges, and a round of weapon-focused sandbox changes to walk through. As a warning, this is a pretty large amount of information in a small space, and we've joked about a meaty twab before, but this one may feel a bit overwhelming if you rush through it. Let's take it slow, step by step, and get through it together in one piece. So first up, introducing seasonal challenges. So over the last year, we've been looking at ways in which we can reduce the amount of FOMO, or the fear of missing out, in Destiny 2. And we recently made some changes to seasons and how seasonal content is available throughout a given year of Destiny 2. And this week, we're looking to bounties and bright dust, introducing a new system not only to remove FOMO, but to give fresh ways to earn XP and alternate rewards. To walk us through the ins and outs of the seasonal challenges, we pass the mic to the development team. So then we got the dev team, so during production of Beyond Light, we started looking at the problems of bounty fatigue and FOMO, as well as the seasonal legibility, i.e. what is in a season and how to engage with it when I log in. We created a few goals which we believe will improve the experience. So first of all, provide a guide to new, returning and veteran players for what to do today and this week. Guide the player through seasonal content week over week. Encourage players to engage with complexities and nuances of the seasonal activity and the rituals. And reduce the penalties on XP and bright dust for missing a given week. To solve these goals, we're introducing a new pursuit type for players called seasonal challenges. And the seasonal challenges live on their own page, are going to be accessed through the quest log or season pass, and are separated by week. So here's a quick breakdown of how this feature works. So every week, for the first 10 weeks of the season, between 3 and 10 new challenges appear automatically for players. Some of the challenges deal with the seasonal content, others push players to complete strikes, Gambit and the Crucible, or focus on non-activity focused Destiny rituals like gaining power, unlocking seasonal artifact mods, or improving guns and armor. These challenges can only be completed once per account, but once they become available, these challenges can be completed at any time before the end of the season and do not need to be started or picked up from a vendor. So as an example, if a player doesn't want to play for 2 weeks through 4, they can return on week 5 and have all of those challenges waiting for them. Completing each challenge towards XP, contributing towards your season pass ranks, and other rewards could be bright dust, seasonal currency, or other interesting items. In moving away from weekly bounties, which were restricted to broad objectives tied to ritual activities, we've taken more leeway with creating some interesting or more difficult challenges. These may be things you're already doing, or things that test your ability, and some examples include, so defeating primeval envoys in Gambit, defeating enemies in Nightfall the Ordeal with seasonal weapons, gaining infamy or valor ranks, acquiring the ritual weapon and its cosmetic ornaments, winning rounds in Trials of Osiris, and completing a Grandmaster Nightfall. So not all the challenges will require that level of accomplishment, but the harder or longer the challenge is, the more experience it rewards. And challenges that focus on the seasonal activity and ritual mostly need the season pass to complete, but most of the ritual focused challenges can be completed without the season pass. So overall, roughly 60% of the seasonal challenges do not require the season pass. So with the changes above, we're removing weekly bounties from the 3 ritual vendors, so Zavala, Shaxx and the Drifter, Banshee 44 and the seasonal vendor. So these vendors will still have daily bounties which will reward XP, and the 3 ritual vendors will still have repeatable bounties for those who want to pursue additional XP and bright dust. Lastly, most of the challenges disappear after the season they're introduced, and anything that isn't claimed will be lost. We don't add any new challenges after week 10, which should give everyone a few weeks to clean up any challenges they didn't finish. And any challenge that rewards unique or seasonal items, like currency, lore books, seasonal weapons, etc., can be completed as long as the seasonal activity is in the game, but XP awarded for completing the challenge will only be available during the season it was introduced. So next up, let's talk about Bright Dust. So back before Beyond Light launched, we discussed some of the goals around the changes to Bright Dust. As a refresher, we wanted to change the way you earn Bright Dust and move more towards account-specific paths to give players with only one character significantly more Bright Dust than they've been earning over the last year. So in Season 13, we'll be continuing to move towards these goals by adding Bright Dust onto seasonal challenges. Since you no longer have to purchase weekly ritual bounties, each of the Strike, Crucible and Gambit seasonal challenges will award between 75 and 300 Bright Dust. We're also introducing an end of season Bright Dust bonus, so if you complete nearly all of the seasonal challenges, we're awarding a single 4,000 Bright Dust pile. Additionally, each ritual vendor challenge, so complete 8 bounties, awards 120 Bright Dust for each character who completes it each week. And because this is prompted by the removal of weekly bounties, the only seasonal challenge that be awarding Bright Dust are the ones that both Season Pass owners and free players can complete. And here is a quick breakdown of how much Bright Dust you should expect to earn over the course of Season 13. So we've got Seasonal Challenges Bright Dust, that's all players, so free seasonal activities you've got 6,000, Seasonal Extra you've got 4,000, and total is 10,000. Season Pass Bright Dust, so the free path is 7,500, that's all players, paid path is 3,000, players who own the Season Pass, and total is 10,500 Bright Dust. Then we've got the weekly ritual vendor challenges Bright Dust, that's all players, so 120 Bright Dust per ritual vendor per character per week, and 14,040 total if completing all the required weekly challenges over the course of Season 13. Additionally, we still plan to offer weekly and repeatable Bright Dust bounties for seasonal events, giving you a bit more Bright Dust towards desired rewards. As a final note, please be sure to claim all seasonal challenges that award Bright Dust prior to the end of the season. Once the season ends, associated challenges and their Bright Dust rewards will expire and can no longer be claimed. It's always exciting when we bring a new feature online for Destiny 2, and we hope that the changes detailed above make it easier to create goals to complete each week. And as always, we're eager to hear your feedback once you start finishing out your seasonal challenges, so please sound off with your thoughts. So next up, we've got back to the Sandbox. So every season, we have a collection of changes to Destiny 2's Sandbox to spice things up a bit. This season, we're making some targeted changes to weapon archetypes that need some love, as well as beginning some preparations for crossplay. So back to the dev team, they say in preparation for crossplay coming later this year, we're making some changes to the recoil stat. So currently, several weapon archetypes have their recoil reduced by around 40%, depending on archetype when using a mouse and keyboard. And this results in an issue where players on mouse and keyboard are able to largely ignore the stability weapon stat, creating unintended discrepancies in weapon performance between controllers and mouse and keyboard. So the following weapon archetypes will have their mouse and keyboard recoil adjusted closer to controller, and that is going to reduce the difference from about 40% to 20%. So that's going to happen on auto rifles, scout rifles, pulse rifles, submachine guns, hand cannons and machine guns too. In the case of pulse rifles, submachine guns and machine guns, we're also going to be introducing some buffs. In some cases, these weapons are going to have less recoil across both controller and mouse and keyboard input methods compared to what's in the game today. So submachine guns are largely outclassed by auto rifles at medium range and by sidearms at short range with player feedback, often mentioning how hard they are to control. To address this feedback, we're introducing the following change. So reduce camera movement from firing a submachine gun by 24%. And pulse rifles with the mouse and keyboard changes were kicking in a little bit too much, so reduce the camera movement from firing a pulse rifle by 7%, and machine guns with the mouse and keyboard changes were kicking in a little bit too much, so reduce the camera movement by firing a machine gun by 9.5%. We're going to pay close attention to how these changes play out when they go live, and plan to revisit individual archetypes in a future update as needed. Outside the recoil adjustments, we're also going to be tuning a few weapon archetypes in Season 13, so looking through back-end data and community feedback, we landed on the following. So we've got some buffs. So rocket launchers, yes, finally rocket launchers are getting a buff. They've fallen behind other heavy weapons in most measurements of effectiveness, and we're pushing them more towards burst damage roll. So increased rocket launcher damage by 30%, nice. Exotic rocket launchers have been adjusted individually and are affected by this change to different degrees. And paired with the buffs to reserves from last season, we're hoping you'll explode many more things in Season 13. So fusion rifle usage is very low, and they feel like an unreliable choice in Crucible compared to shotguns. So increased fusion rifle damage fall off start distance based on range stats, so 6% with 0 range and 16% within 100 range, and reduce the camera movement from firing a fusion rifle by 9.5%. And breach grenade launcher usage is very low outside of the mountaintop, and we believe that part of the reason for that loop of hold the trigger to aim, then release to detonate is challenging to execute, particularly since projectiles can bounce off targets if the trigger is held. So breach grenade launcher projectiles will now detonate on impact with a character, even if you're holding down the trigger. So we've had the buffs, and now we've got some nerfs. So while sniper rifle usage has dropped in Crucible, we've observed that it's hard to challenge someone with a sniper rifle, even if you get the first shot on an enemy. They can often respond and win the fight. So they're going to increase the ADS flinch to snipers when taking damage from other players, and swords are extremely dominant in PvE. So at this time, 65% of players are using swords for the majority of gameplay encounters in Destiny 2. And while we're introducing a buff to rocket launchers to make them a little bit more enticing, we feel that swords do too much damage compared to other options, so they're going to reduce sword damage by 15%. That is a real massive shame. So exotic changes and bug fixes. So some exotic weapons lose their buffs when you switch weapons, which is intended, and they would also lose their buffs when pulling out your ghost shell, which is not intended. So fix that issue on these weapons. So that includes Ace of Spades, Taraba and Hawkmoon. Borealis and Hardlight now have custom, quite short animation for switching damage type. With Duality, they increase the damage fall off distance by 1.25 meters, while both firing from the hip and aiming down sights, and also reduce the maximum buff stacks from 7 to 5. Each stack now grants more damage bonus and extended buff duration slightly. Stern will once again reload any equipped special weapon slot on kill, provided the special weapons clip isn't full already and there's available reserve ammo, so that's nice. And fixed an issue that was preventing Merciless from increasing its charge rate on non-lethal hits, so finally Merciless is getting fixed. And before we go, we are planning to take a quick tuning pass on Arbalest. This won't be ready in time for February the 9th. We are expecting this to have touched later on in Season 13. Now, we know it can be difficult to understand the scale of buffs and nerfs without having these changes in your hands. Not to mention, there will be some new perks for you to hunt as you start navigating the content in Season of the Redacted. As always, we're excited to see the changes out there in the wild on February the 9th, and we'll be eager to hear your feedback. Well, next up we've got Crimson Days, and each year we look to February as a time to celebrate bonds of friendship throughout the community. So Guardians have come to know this celebration as Crimson Days. It was one of our first seasonal activities in Destiny 1, and as a tradition we carried that into Destiny 2. And while there was great enjoyment of Crimson Days, we feel that it's been missing the mark in terms of quality over the last few years. As such, we've made the decision to discontinue Crimson Days moving forward, and while we'll miss the event, this move will allow us to maintain focus for alternate seasonal offerings ranging from quests to activities and more. And we've quite a bit planned for Season of the Redacted, and our hope is that we've maintained or even improved the quality that you come to expect from this upcoming release. Some of you may be asking about the fate of Crimson Doubles, our once a year Crimson Days playlist. This mode is currently being shifted to the Destiny Content Vault, but may return in the future. Many thanks to every Guardian who's joined us over the years for this event. Crimson decorations may not be hung in the tower, but we have no doubt that you'll continue to form Crimson bonds over the years to come. So then we've got the regular bug reporting and also movie of the week, and we've also got artist of the week too. But DMG closes us out, so he says that's it for this week folks. Season of the Redacted is almost here. We've got a patch preview to cover in the next Twab, so stop by if you're interested. And he does then include the tweet from Destiny the Game, and it says, if this gets 7 likes, we'll add a new landing zone on Europa next season. So it looks like that new landing zone is coming. So DMG says, so we'll see you again next week, bright and early on Tuesday morning, and he must be talking about that trailer. Well, that is it for this week at Bungie this week. And as always, thank you so much for watching. For more Destiny 2 content like this, hit that subscribe button down below and subscribe to This Week in Video Games. If you want to join the community, check out the Discord link in the description, or you can follow me on Twitter at TWIVG Podcast. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, liking and sharing the video would really help me out. Otherwise, check out the other videos on the channel. Thanks again, I'll see you in the next video.